There was a room off the back of my grandmother's kitchen that never had a light in it.
My grandfather Wendell built that house in 1931, and he left the bulb out of that one room on purpose. I was near 40 years old before I understood why. My name is Burl Sizemore, fifth generation on this mountain in eastern Kentucky.
There has not been a deep freezer in this house since 1987, and I have not lost a year's food yet.
What I know about keeping a pantry did not come out of a book. It came out of standing in that dark room with her while she told me what went where and what would ruin what. Here's the twist. Number 1 will keep an egg good to eat for close to a year with no cold at all, and the thing that does it costs about $4 at the feed store. Number 17. I had backwards for the first 10 years. I kept my own house, and it cost me a bin of potatoes every single February until an old woman told me plain.
And number 2 is the one place on this list where I am going to stop and tell you that I will not guess for you.
None of this was ever written down. It lived in one woman's hands at a time, up and down these hollers, and every time one of them died, a little more of it went in the ground with her. Hit subscribe. Let us count them down. 25 Appalachian pantry tricks my grandmother never wrote down. Number 25, the bean sack. Her dried beans never sat in glass, and they never sat in plastic. They hung in a cotton sack on a nail, up off the floor where the air moved around them. The reason is sweat. A dried bean is not all the way dry, friend. It still gives off a little moisture, and in a sealed jar that moisture has nowhere to go. It settles on the glass, runs back down into the beans, and you get a soft patch and then mold in the middle of a jar that looked fine from the outside. The rule was, the sack breathes and the nail keeps it off the floor, because the floor is where the damp is and the floor is where the mice are. Number 24, the bay leaf in the meal. Every bin of cornmeal and every sack of flour in that pantry had 2 or 3 dried bay leaves buried down in it. That is a weevil trick. The oil in the leaf is disagreeable to them, and they will move along to easier feed. It is not poison, and it does not smell up the meal. But here is the honest part, and it matters. A bay leaf will not kill what is already in there. Weevils do not walk in from the yard. They come home from the store, already in the sack as eggs you cannot see. The leaf keeps new ones out. It does nothing about the ones you carried in yourself. Which brings me to the next one. Number 23. Freeze the new flour first. This is the one modern thing on this list, and my grandmother would have thought I was out of my mind for it because she did not have a freezer to do it in. A new sack of flour or meal goes in the freezer for 2 full days before it ever goes in the bin. 2 days at 0 kills the eggs that came home with it. The old way of getting the same thing was to buy meal fresh ground in small amounts and use it up fast, and that works too if you have a mill close. But if you are buying a 25-pound sack at the store, freeze it first, friend. Every bug problem in the pantry starts in a sack that came in already carrying them. Number 22, the salt box lid by the stove. Not in the cool room with everything else. Hers hung on the wall right next to the cook stove, in the warmest, driest corner of the house. Salt pulls water out of the air. That is the whole of what salt does, and it does not stop doing it just because it is sitting in a box. Put it in a cool, damp pantry and it cakes into a brick, and you are chipping at it with a knife by August. The rule was warm and dry, with the lid closed, and a few grains of dry rice in the bottom to take up what did get in. Number 21, coffee stayed whole. The chicory and what little real coffee came into that house sat in a tin hole, and it got ground the morning it got drunk. Grinding breaks the bean open, and everything that makes coffee taste like coffee starts leaving the minute you do. Ground coffee in a tin is stale in 2 weeks. Whole beans in the same tin are fine for months. The rule was a tin and not glass, because light does the same thing to coffee that air does, just slower. Number 20, a slice of bread in the brown sugar. Brown sugar goes hard because the molasses in it dries out. A slice of plain bread laid on top of the crock, changed every week or so, gives it moisture back and it stays soft. An apple slice does the same thing and lasts longer, but it will take on the taste of the apple, so she used bread. The rule is you cannot fix hard sugar by breaking it up. Once it is a rock, you have to give the moisture back and wait a day. Better to never let it get there. Number 19, the onion braid. Onions never went in a bin in that house. They came out of the garden, laid on the porch boards a week to cure until the necks went papery, and then she braided the tops together and hung them from a rafter. Hanging is not decoration, friend. An onion in a pile is touching 6 other onions, and every place they touch is a place that holds damp. Hung in a braid, air gets all the way around, every one of them. The rule was cure them first. An onion put up with a green wet neck rots from the neck down, and it will take the 2 below it with it. Number 18. Potatoes went in dirty. She never washed a potato she meant to keep. They came out of the ground, dried in the shade a few hours, and went straight into a crate with straw between the layers. The dirt on a potato was doing a job. That skin needs to cure and toughen, and washing it takes off the film that keeps it from taking on water and rotting. You wash it the day you eat it. And the crate went in the dark. That was the reason my grandfather left the bulb out of that room, and I did not know it until I was 40. Light turns a potato green, and green on a potato is solanine, and solanine will make you sick.
Dark is not for looks. Dark is the whole point. Number 17. Apples get their own corner. This is the one I had backwards.
For the first 10 years, I kept my own house. I put the apple crate right up against the potato crate because they both liked the same cool room and it seemed tidy. Every February, I had a bin of potatoes with white sprouts on them, a finger long. An apple gives off a gas as it ripens. That gas is what tells a potato that winter is over and it is time to grow. Put them in the same room and your apples will sprout your whole potato crop by the middle of winter. Keep them apart, friend. Different corners at the very least, different rooms if you have them. And one bad apple truly does take the barrel for the same reason. A rotting one puts off far more of it. Number 16. Squash cured on the porch. Winter squash and pumpkins came in from the field and sat out on the south side of the porch for 2 weeks before they ever came inside. That is curing. The skin hardens and the little cuts and scrapes scab over. A squash brought straight in from the field has soft skin, and every scratch on it is a door. Then they came inside and went on the shelf, not on the floor, in a room warmer than the potatoes liked. Squash and potatoes do not want the same room. 50 degrees suits a potato and will turn a squash to mush by Christmas. Number 15. Cabbage hung by the root. She pulled cabbage with the root still on it, knocked the dirt off, and hung the heads upside down from the ceiling of the cool room. A cabbage hung that way will hold for months. Laid on a shelf, the underside sits in its own damp and goes slick in a few weeks. The rule was to leave 2 or 3 of the outside leaves on, loose and ugly. They dry out and turn to paper, and they are the wrapper that keeps the good head inside from drying with them. Number 14. Carrots and beets went in damp sand. A wooden box, a layer of sand, a layer of carrots not touching each other, more sand, more carrots. Same for beets and turnips. A root vegetable out of the ground is trying to do one thing, and that is to keep from drying out. Damp sand holds it just short of drying and just short of wet. That is the whole trick. The rule was the sand stays barely damp, not wet, and the tops come off before they go in. Leave the greens on, and they keep pulling water out of the root all winter, and you get a limp carrot by January. Number 13. Apple rings on a string. Apples that were bruised or small did not go in the crate. She cored them, cut them in rings, and strung them on a thread across the back of the kitchen above the stove. A week up there and they were leather. They kept for a year in a sack, and they went into pies and fried pies all winter. The rule was to get them dry enough that they squeak. If a ring is still soft in the middle, it will mold in the sack, and it will find the rest of them. Number 12. Leather breeches. Green beans, whole, run through with a needle and a thread and hung in long strings from the rafters until they were dry and dark and looked like nothing anybody would eat. That is the most Appalachian thing in this pantry, and it is one of the best. Soaked overnight and cooked down slow with a piece of fat meat, they taste like nothing you get out of a jar. It is a different flavor than a fresh bean, and it is the point, not a compromise. The rule was to string them young and to hang them where air moves. Strung in a steel corner, they mold on the thread. Number 11. The vinegar crock. There was a crock in that pantry with a cloth over it that had been going, near as I can tell, since before the Second World War. Apple peelings and cores went in with water and a little sugar. The cloth kept the flies out and let air in, and it turned to vinegar on its own. What sits on top is the mother, and it is not something gone wrong. It is the thing doing the work. The rule is cloth, never a lid. Seal that crock and you will not get vinegar, friend. You will get a mess. Number 10. Kraut lives under the brine. Cabbage shredded, salted, packed into a crock and weighted down with a plate and a clean rock. That is all of it. The salt pulls the water out of the cabbage, and that water becomes the brine, and the brine is what protects it. Down under the liquid there is no air, and without air the things that rot food cannot work. The one rule, and it is the only one that matters: if it is under the brine it is fine, and if it is above the brine it is not. Any cabbage that floats up will go furry, and you push it back down or you take it out. That is the whole of the skill. Number 9. Pickled beets and pickled eggs. Whatever came out of the garden in a glut got put in vinegar, beets mostly, and eggs when the hens were going strong. Vinegar is sour enough that almost nothing can live in it. That is not folklore. It is the reason pickling works at all. The honest limit here is that a jar of pickled eggs sitting on a shelf at room temperature is an old practice, and it is not a safe one by what we know now. Hers went in the cool room and got eaten in a few weeks. If you make them, keep them cold and eat them, friend. Do not set them on a warm shelf for a year because your grandmother did. Number 8. Sorghum and honey do not spoil. There was a jug of sorghum molasses in that pantry that outlived 2 dogs. Both of them are too sweet for anything to grow in. Sugar pulls the water right out of a bacterium, and nothing that would spoil food can get a start. The rule on honey is the one that fools people. Honey that has gone thick and grainy has not gone bad. That is just sugar coming out of solution. Set the jar in warm water, and it comes right back. And sorghum wants a cool, dark shelf and a tight cap, because it will draw damp out of the air and thin itself out if you leave it open. Number 7. The grease can. There was a coffee can at the back of that stove, and every bit of fat off every piece of bacon and sausage went into it through a bit of cloth.
That was the cooking fat for the week. Eggs fried in it, cornbread started with a spoon of it, beans cooked down with it.
It carries a smoke and a salt into everything that you cannot buy in a bottle. The one rule is that you strain it hot. Let it set with the burnt bits still in it, and those bits turn first, and they take the whole can with them. Strain clean. It kept on that stove a month and never went off. Number 6. Rendered lard. Hog fat cut small and cooked down slow in a big pot until what is left floating is brown and crisp, then poured off through cloth into crocks. Lard put up clean and sealed will keep more than a year on a shelf with no cold at all. It made the pie crust, it fried the chicken, and it sealed the top of other things. The rule is slow and low. Cook it fast, and you scorch it, and scorched lard tastes like the inside of a chimney, and there is no fixing it. Number 5. Butter kept in brine. Butter that was not going to get eaten in a week went into a crock of strong salt water, deep enough to cover it with a plate on top. Same principle as the kraut. Under the brine there is no air, and butter goes rancid because of air. The rule is the brine has to be strong, salty enough that a fresh egg floats in it. Wheat brine does not protect the butter, it just makes it wet and slightly salty, and it turns anyway. Number 4. Salt pork in the barrel. Side meat cut in slabs, packed into a barrel in layers with coarse salt heavy between every layer, and left in the cool room. That is not seasoning, friend. That much salt pulls the water out of the meat, and without water nothing can grow in it. It is the same reason honey keeps coming at it from the other direction. The rule was that no meat touches meat. Every piece gets salt all the way around it. One place where 2 slabs touch and there is no salt is one place that will spoil, and it will spread from there. Number 3. The shoulder in the smokehouse. Shoulders and sides went into the little building out back, hung high, over a slow smoldering fire of green hickory for days. Smoke does 2 things. It dries the outside into a hard skin that nothing can get through, and the smoke itself is full of things that keep it from turning. Cold smoke, not hot. You are not cooking it. You are drying and sealing it. The rule was low and slow and green wood. A hot fire cooks the outside, and cooked meat hanging in the shed at summer temperature is exactly what you do not want. Number 2. The country ham. And here is where I stop. A ham buried in salt and sugar for weeks by weight, then hung in cloth for a year, comes out as good a thing as this country has ever made. I have eaten ham my grandfather cured that hung longer than some marriages last.
And this is the one on the list where I will not guess for you.
The proportion of salt to the weight of the meat and the temperature it hangs at are not things to eyeball. Get them wrong and you are not making ham, you are growing something that can kill a person. Botulism is real and it does not announce itself by smell or by taste. Find the actual proportion for the actual weight of your actual ham from somebody who knows and follow it exactly, or buy the ham. Honest is better than impressive, friend, and I would rather tell you plainly where the edge is than have you find it yourself. Number 1. Eggs and lime water.
Here is the one I promised you. A crock, cool water, and a small measure of pickling lime stirred in until the water goes cloudy.
Fresh eggs go in gently, small end down, and they stay under the water. The lime seals every one of the thousands of little holes in the shell. Nothing gets in and the egg does not dry out. They keep close to a year that way with no cold at all. I have eaten eggs out of that crock in March that were laid in July. They scramble a little looser than fresh, and they are not the thing for a meringue, but they are good eggs. The lime costs about $4 at the feed store and it does a year's worth. And here is the rule that decides whether this works or ruins a crock of eggs. It has to be a fresh egg that has never been washed. An egg comes out of the hen with a coating on it called the bloom, and the bloom is what makes the whole thing work. Wash it off, and you have opened every one of those holes, and that egg will rot in the water and take its neighbors with it.
Store eggs are washed, every one of them, by law. They will not work for this, friend, and nobody tells you that on the internet.
Unwashed eggs, straight from the hen, or do not do it. That dark room was the whole reason my grandmother could feed 9 people through a winter on a mountain where the road went out in January. Not one bit of that was written anywhere. It lived in her hands and in her mother's hands before that, and every time one of those women died, some of it went in the ground and did not come back up.
So tell me down below what your grandmother kept in hers and what county she kept it in.
I want to get some of it written down before it is all gone, because most of it never was. I read every single one of these. Next time I'm going to show you how a root cellar is actually built, the kind that holds right at 40 degrees all winter with no machine, no fan, and no electricity, out of dirt and rock, and about $4 of hardware. Until then, go pull your apples away from your potatoes. It is the cheapest thing on this list, and it is the one that will save you a bin.